Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Richard from Seneca. Thank you very much for joining me today. Today we're going to talk about how to use Microsoft Teams and Google Classroom, specifically in relation to how it works within Seneca and how Seneca works as well. So what's really powerful about using these tools together is it opens up a whole load of possibilities to use each of these apps' functionality to basically do more than you could with each of those things on their own. So it's a really powerful way to basically get the most out of the different technology options you have as teachers. And yeah, I hope you find it useful. Just a bit of housekeeping on how it's going to work in this session. So if you have Zoom open, if you hover over where my face is at the moment, you'll see that there's a chat option at the bottom of your screen. Now, what that chat will allow you to do is it will allow you to ask questions and communicate with each other during the session. You'll find you won't be able to unmute yourself, but if you ask questions in there, what I'll do is towards the end of the session, I will come back and I will find some time to answer any questions that you have that you've put in there. So please do keep them coming in as and when you have those questions come up. Don't feel like you have to wait for a certain time. Also, if you know the answer to any questions, then please do feel free to answer them for each other. That would be great. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen with you in a second, and I'm going to go through, first of all, a bit of background behind Seneca and talk about what that is and how it works and some of the research behind it. And then I'm going to go through and basically do a bit of a product demo on how Seneca works with both Google Classroom and Microsoft Teams and how that integration can work across the two of them, and also show you some of the basic functionality within both Google Classroom and Microsoft Teams. So if I share my screen with you now, do get those questions coming in as and when. Okay, so I hope you can all see that, and yeah, if there's any questions or any problems with the signal, please do just let me know in the chat. So what we have in terms of to start with is just talk about what actually Seneca is. So we're all on the same page from moment one, make sure we understand it from its very basic principles. So before coronavirus and everything like that happened, we had lots of people using us as a in-classroom tool, as a homework tool, and students also using us as a revision tool. And obviously, as the whole world has changed over the last 6 months, we found that schools and students and parents are using us in a very different way than they were before. More often than not, it's what's classically known as sort of a distance learning approach. So, students learn and study on their own, be that in terms of a sort of, again, what they'd call a blended learning approach or a flipped learning approach. So students learning before they come into class to do the content in class, learning on Seneca, and then coming into class to do practice exercises, ask the teacher questions, things like that. But also as school lockdowns and things are happening across the country still, people are obviously using us as a way to carry on delivering the curriculum through those difficult times. And some of the best things that I think are worth mentioning about Seneca right from the get-go is that, first of all, it's based on cognitive science. So what is shown to be effective in learning and what is sort of the latest understanding of how people learn automatically happens within the platform. So you don't need to worry about whether your students are or aren't using effective learning strategies when they complete work independently, because Seneca basically does it for them and takes that out for them. The other thing to note is that everything on Seneca is automated. So be that, oh, sorry, I think my screen share has just gone. Apologies. Everything on Seneca is automated. So by that, what I mean is marking, first of all, is automated. So you don't have to mark the work that students complete on Seneca. But also from a data perspective, you can track students' progress. It's nicely presented in a way that's easy to get your head around. And I'll show you what that looks like a bit later, but it all happens automatically and it's all very easy to use. Also, the learning on Seneca is adaptive. So what we mean by that is we automatically differentiate the work for your students based on how well they do in the questions. So if students are being shown to have a certain level of understanding and knowledge in a certain area, then we will give them, we'll sort of push them on sooner than we would have done necessarily. But also if they seem to be struggling, we will keep them back and give them more support the areas that they need work in. So yeah, it's a really tailored experience for the student, and again automates the work you would do in a classroom normally with your differentiation. And finally, it's everything I show you on this webinar will be free to use, so there'll be no cost or anything I show you. We do have a premium tier as well, which I can also talk about if there's any questions on it, but everything I show you will be free to use, and you could go away and start using straight away after this webinar without having to dip into any nice department budgets, as I imagine they might be a bit tight at the moment. So in terms of what we have, so I mentioned about cognitive science and how the platform is sort of designed around those principles, and we worked with a team to make sure that the theory was implemented effectively, but we also wanted to make sure that that implementation also worked from like an actual practical perspective. So we worked with just over 1,100 pupils to basically understand how students performed when using Seneca compared to other independent learning tools, like say for example a revision guide. And when you see that there was very similar pre-test results for students in the sample that we used, in the sample of students that we looked at. But if you compare that to post-test results, the students did over twice as well using Seneca as they did when they used the revision guides. So we see that as a validation that what we are doing is not only sort of basically an effective use of the theory, and it works basically. So students do better when they use Seneca. And that research was peer-reviewed and published. So if you want to read about it some more, you can look in these places and you can read about it. If you just do a quick Google search, you'll be able to find some questions on some the articles on that. But obviously, if you want to ask any questions, do feel free to do so. Now, in terms of what we have on Seneca at the moment, so we have content right from year 3 up to the end of A level. And everything on there is either linked to the national curriculum at Key Stage 2 and 3, sorry. And it's linked to the specific exam board specifications at Key Stage 4 and 5. So what that means is you can be really reassured that whatever it is that you are delivering to your students through Seneca, it's what they need to know, basically. We don't add any extra content or anything like that that's not specific to their exam board or the national curriculum. And in terms of how many people use us currently, we've got over 3.75 million pupils using us, and about 170,000 teachers, and over 40,000 parents using us as well. So and those are, the vast majority of those are free users. So, we are, as a company, very keen on providing a high quality education to as many people as possible for free. That's what drives us. And yeah, as I say, everything we provide, or everything I show you on this webinar, will be available to you for free. So let's take a look at the platform. I'm going to focus on the parent platform for the focus of this webinar, because looking at Teams and Classroom, it makes sense to focus more on that. But you can obviously have a look at your student platform in a bit more detail on independently if you'd like. So when you first log into a Seneca account, this is what you're greeted with. So this is your homepage, if you like. It has your list of classes, which I've not very smartly named here, but you can use those and name them whatever you want. And it's a very simple process to set up a class. You just literally click create class, give it a name. And then you create the class and you let it go through. And then you've got this basically 4-step process, step 1 having already been completed, to set up the class. So the second one is to add courses to your students and to allow them to study them. So this is to say, okay, students, these are the courses you need to use. These are the specifications you're studying, etc. And if you do that, you just click this big blue button, add courses. If you need help at any time, you can just click this Get Help button here, but let's just go straight in and add a course. So I can go through here and I can choose any of these courses. And let's say I just pick some random ones here, whatever. You can use these filters down the side to find the exact ones you want, or you can just search at the top here. But then when you're ready, you select, I've selected 4 here, I can just click add courses, and that adds those 4 courses to this class. Now the next stage you'll see here is create an assignment to mark work automatically. So again, if I need to, I can get help, but I can just go straight in and create that first assignment. And you'll see these 4 courses that I added, and you can select as many of these as you want. But when you're selecting the courses, but for the assignment, I'm just going to choose one, whichever one I want to set it for. So let's choose, for example, it's business A-level, AQA. If you're familiar with the spec of the business A-level AQA, you'll recognize this breakdown. But if you're not, it would look the same for any course that you were doing. You'd have the sections on the top here, then you'd have subsections, and then underneath that, you'd have the different topics that you had. So this is taken straight from the spec. So what you can do is you can select as many or as few of these as you want for your students to complete. It's up to you what you select. And it tells you here an approximate time of how long that would take. So it's good for gauging how much work to set for your students. And then when you're ready, you click assign. And you give it a name. And a start and an end date. Now the start and the end date is really useful if you're looking at thinking about planning maybe a whole half term in one go. You can do that and it will save you a bit of time down the line, hopefully. So if we click create, that will then create that first assignment that I've got in this class. Now at this point, I don't have any students in the class, and that's obviously a vital part of Seneca, making sure that you have students in there able to study. Now you'll see again this get help button, but we can also invite students here if we just need to go straight in and do that. Now this is when the first part of the integration with Classroom and Teams really comes in. So you've got a few different options for how you can share the how you can invite your students to Teams and to this class in Seneca. One option worth sharing is this business card print instructions. If you click that, what it will do is it will show you a QR code that will, if you put that on screen, what your students will be able to do is just zap that with their phones, if you're allowed phones in schools, and that will join the class all in one, allow your students to all join the class in one go, which is quite handy. But for the purpose of this webinar, it makes sense to show you both the Classroom and the Teams examples in a bit more detail. So if I show you Classroom first. So I click on that link to share the Classroom button to share that link in Google Classroom. And then what you'll be able to do is, first of all, choose the class you want to share this to. So I'm going to choose this Year 10 group. And then you choose the action. Now, if you're not familiar with Google Classroom, there are 4 different actions you can do. You can either create an assignment, you can ask a question, you can make an announcement, or create material. The only one that probably needs explanation is this create material one down the bottom. That's most useful if you're thinking about creating something that you want your students to have access to. So for example, as a science teacher, it might be a formula sheet or something like that. As an English teacher, a PDF of a text, or maybe as a history teacher, it could be like a source or something like that. But basically a piece of material you want your students to have access to for reference. If it makes sense at this point, I'm inviting my students to the class. I'm going to make an announcement. So if I click on that, and then click go, you then got a whole load of options down the side here, and you get an option to share a message to your students. So I can say something like click the link to join the class, or something like that. Whatever it is makes sense. This link's automatically generated for you. You can choose to set it for just other classes. You can just set it for some students if you want. It's up to you how you choose these different features. But you can also choose to, if you click this down arrow here, you can choose to schedule it for later, save it as a draft, or discard it. But we'll just post it for now so you can see exactly what happens. So when you're ready, just click view if you want to see the post and see what it looks like to your students. And we'll be able to see that post that we've just shared. So there it is, 5:15, click to join the class, and the link will just pop up below that any second now. There you go. And when a student clicks on that link, it will then take them through to their account. If they haven't got an account or they're not signed into their account, they'll just need to sign in. But if they're already signed in, it takes them straight through. And when it loads in a second, it says you've just joined name, which is the name I gave the class earlier. And it gives the students some information. And when they click continue, it will take them through to the class. So you'll see these 4 courses I added earlier. And also that assignment I've just created that they can then just start learning if they want to. So that's the process in Google Classroom. What I'll do is I'll show you the process in Teams now. So again, we're sharing the link for students to join your class. If I click the Microsoft Teams button this time, it will log you into your Teams if you haven't done so already. You can choose where to share it to. The difference with Teams and Classroom, so Classroom sets up classes. It's more sort of tailored towards teachers. But the Microsoft Teams, you share to what they call teams or channels. So teams can be things like a department, or a channel could be like a class in that department, for example. So I'm going to share to, I've got a Year 10 maths group set up here. So I can click on that. And again, I can add a custom message. Something like this. Click the link, join the class, and when I'm ready, I can just click share, and then that again will post that in that channel, so your link has been shared. Now, if I go into Teams, you'll be able to see here, there it is at 17:17. That link I've just posted there, and if I clicked on that link, it would take me through to set up Seneca, just to set up the class, just as I did before. So that's inviting students. Your students then click on that link, they're doing their assignments, hopefully they start doing some work, and then obviously that creates a whole load of nice data for you to use as a teacher. Now, if I just switch into a class that actually has some students in, this next section will make a whole lot more sense. So again, I showed you the creating assignment feature, or how to create an assignment a minute ago. If you want to create another one, you just click this add assignment button here. And just like before, you select the different topics you want to set and you assign it. This time, because there are some students in this class, I can select particular students I want to set it to, or I can just leave it as it is. And then I give it a name again, a start and an end date, just like before, and then I click create. Now this time, what I will have the option to do is share this with my students in Classroom and Teams. So again, I can go ahead and do that straight away. So let me show you the process in Classroom first, then I'll show you Teams afterwards. So if you click on Google Classroom, you get this same page that came up before coming up. So again, you choose your particular class, and again, you choose what type of thing you'd like to do. This time, because it's an assignment, it makes sense to click assignment. And then if you click go, you will then have the option to access the assignment this time, isn't it? Add a custom link. So add a custom message, and you've got that link already there for you. The difference with an assignment is you can set a number of points if you want, if you're using the markbook in Classroom. You can also set a due date, whichever it is you want, and a topic as well, if that's useful. So, so yeah, the topic I'll leave blank for the moment, because what I'll do is I'll show you what the topic feature looks like in a second. So you have to give it a title as well. And if I just then click assign, that again will be sent out to the students through Google Classroom. So what again I'll do is click view. And it will take me through, there it is, that Seneca assignment at 17:20 has been posted there in the stream. Now, I haven't talked to you about the stream at all, what that actually is. So you can kind of think of it like the message board of the class. So It's how your students communicate, or how you communicate with the students, and how your students communicate with you. So you can see I've posted 2 things here already in this session. I can add comments, students can add comments to me, students can write messages to me, all through the stream. Now, the difference with an assignment is that the assignment will also show up in classwork. So this Seneca assignment, I've just created this one here. And you know, I mentioned about topics earlier and how that's functionality within Google Classroom. So whatever you see in Google Classroom is exactly what your students see. So what the topics allow you to do is basically arrange the content you load on your Google Classroom into different topics to make it easier for you and your students to get the hang of, or get to grips with where it belongs in your courses. So again, here I can choose this assignment. If I want to drag it into a particular topic, I can just drag it down. So I want to put it under topic 2. I just drop it there and it drops in there. So it's a way to organize the work for both you and your students. So again, let me show you the same process in Microsoft Teams. This time I'm going to share the assignment in Teams. Again, I can share this assignment using the share to. I can choose my channel that I want to share it to. Again, I can put a message, whatever it is. And then I can share it down the bottom right corner here. You get that same confirmation that the link's being shared. And if I go into Microsoft Teams, again, you'll see this link has been generated here with that message I just put. But if you want, and if a student clicks on this or the link that we did in Google Classroom, they'll be able to access the assignment straight from there. So that is how to share the assignment in Google Classroom and Microsoft Teams. We then hope some students start completing some work. So what you can then do is, obviously, as I talked about it earlier, the marking is more automated, and also the tracking is automated, and progress monitoring is automated. So say, for example, I go into an assignment here that's an old assignment and some students have actually completed some work. You'll see, first of all, at the top here, you've got some basic data on the actual assignment itself. So how many completed it, how many completed it late, and how many didn't complete it. And then you've also got some average scores for the sections you set for your students. And then if you scroll down, you can drill down into the data on an individual basis. So this status column will tell you whether they completed it late, or not completed it. And then you've also got all the data here to show the different work that students have done, percentages, so you can see it. It's nicely red, amber, green, so you can understand exactly what your students do and don't understand. So you can then think about what to do with this information. If you want to sort by any of these columns, you can just click on the header of them. So you see who's done particularly badly. These students here have got the red and then the ambers. But if you want to click it again, it will show you who's done particularly well. You can also change the metric. So at the moment, I've got best score selected. But if you wanted to change it to worst score, average score, most recent score, the number of attempts they did, or the total study time, you can also just change that. And it will just change what is here accordingly. So say if I change it to worst score, you'll see a lot more red, where students haven't done so well. And average score will be somewhere in between. And yeah, you can really use it to drill down into what your students do and don't know. Now, this is obviously really useful, but you're probably going to want to think about how to do something quick and easy to sort of rectify this and help your students with this. And what you can do is use this smart reassign button here. So if you click on that, what it will allow you to do is automatically reset work for your students based on how well they've done. So say, for example, you wanted to reset it for any sections that were incomplete along any students, or any students that got less than 50% of their best score. You just click those buttons, and then you can select as many of these as you want, but you just click reassign when you're ready. You give it a name and a start and an end date. And then you click reassign, and it gives a really tailored follow-up for that class. Again, you can share this in Classroom and Teams like you did before if you want. that you can get a really tailored, so this is just a small group of students who met that criteria I selected, and it's reset just the sections that they struggled with or didn't complete based on the parameters I set. So again, it's really, really valuable and really, really useful to follow up. Now, don't forget when a student revisits this, because it's adaptive on Seneca, the learning that happens. So it won't be the same session they see. The system will automatically take into account what they've been shown to know last time they studied it, and based on how long ago it's been since they've studied. It will also take into account, it will sort of understand what part of the course the student struggles with, the topic, sorry, the student struggles with the most. So it would tailor it accordingly. So that's that. Now you also want to be able to see data when students are completing work independently. So separate from assignments, this is where you have gone, students, I want you to do these topics, and off you go. You also want to see it when they're doing their independent work, if they're doing revision at home or whatever. And for that, you can use the assignments tab. So if I click here, what you can do is select the course you want to see data from, select the metric you want to see. So there's different options we had earlier, best score, worst score, etc. You can choose the time period you want to see data for. So you can just see last 24 hours, last year, whatever it is that works for you. And then you can also just see particular date ranges if you want to just have a custom date range, say from the 1st of September, for example, till today. You can just do that as an option. You can then select the sections you want to see data for. So a bit like when you were setting the assignment earlier, you're just selecting the information you want to see this time. So I want to see all of these sections for all of these students in my class. And I click select sections, and I give it a second just to pull that data through. And then again, you can see that data nicely presented exactly as it was on the assignments, but this time it takes into account all the data, not just the assignment data. Again, you can just change the scores, change it to best score, you'll see a lot more green. And yeah, it's a really nice way to see data. Now, I should have shared this when we looked at assignments, but I forgot, so apologies for that. But there is an option to share to CSV and download a spreadsheet based on the data that's on screen at any time. Anywhere that there's data on Seneca, you can do that. So if I was to click this button, it would just download a spreadsheet, and then you can do with that spreadsheet what you wish. If you want to upload it to your Markbook on Microsoft, or sorry, on Google Classroom or on Teams, you can do that. You just need to download the spreadsheet here. Now, the final section that you can see data from is the student section. So if you click on that, again, this gives you an option to choose different date ranges that you want to see data for, but it will basically give you a really high-level overview of what your students have or haven't been doing on Seneca. So things like learning time, their average scores, how many sessions they've completed, and the number of correct answers they've got as well. So just is an overview across the whole course rather than just specifically drilling down into the individual topics and how well they've done. So that's basically that from Seneca and the student and the teacher account and how that all works. There's one other thing on Teams that I think is worth noticing. Unfortunately, it's not an option on Google Classroom, but what you can do on Teams is if you, in any channel, if you click this plus button here, you can add custom apps into your Microsoft Teams, so everything can be accessed from one place. And what you can actually do is add Seneca in as a custom app, or actually there's lots of different options. So you can use like Microsoft products like Word and PowerPoint straight from your Teams, or there's lots of third-party options as well, which you can have a look through. But to add Seneca, what you can do is just add a website and give the website and give the tab a name, whatever it is you want to call it. And then you post the URL, you just copy and paste it from the from your Seneca account, something like this. And you'd just be able to, you can post about it in the channel if you want, or just untick that. And then when you click save, what that will do is it will add another tab up here called Seneca. And it will add that in, and it will just show your Seneca account. Whoever's logged in on this computer will basically show up. So at the moment, I've got this other account here. This is a student's account. But if you were logged into your account, you'd just show your teacher account. Now, this is specific per device. So this would, the Seneca tab, you can trigger it with, if you're an admin, you can trigger it to be across everyone in the channel. So it appears there. but it will only log into the account that you own. It won't allow other people access to your account or anything like that. It's a really nice way to sort of integrate it and keep it all together. The final thing worth sharing that is potentially a really valuable tool, slightly separate to what I've talked about so far, but it's basically our parent account. So our parent account is free to use for parents and schools and students there. So they, and as you probably know, using getting parents more involved in students' learning is a really powerful way to potentially increase and improve outcomes for students. So we have provided this for free, and what parents can do is make a brand new account. They can invite their child to that account, and I'll just log out of this account because it doesn't have any students signed into it. If I go into this account, what it will be able to do is you'll be able to, as a parent, you will be able to see basic data on your students, on your child, sorry. So you'll be able to see, like the data you saw on your students tab, basically. So you'll be able to see the learning time, the average score, the number of sessions they've completed, and the number of correct answers, or based on the time period that you've selected. So you'll see here, the parent can see that they've studied a Christmas Carol course, how long they've spent on it, what was their score, etc. So it's a really good way, a really powerful way to see for your parents and of your students to see their data, and it will allow them to be really involved in the learning process. But again, it won't add any extra work because it all happens automatically, and they're very easy to set up. So I'd encourage you as a school, if you don't use this already, to share this with the parents of your students so that you can get them involved in the learning process, and allow them to sort of be part of what they're doing in school. So what I'm going to come back now is I'm going to come back and have a look at see if there are any questions from anyone, because that's all I wanted to talk about on Teams and Classroom and all that stuff. So if you haven't got your question in yet, but would like to ask a question, please do get it in now, and I'll just stop sharing my screen. Okay. So, question from Eileen around the courses we cover, and this goes for any course that we have on Seneca, or don't have on Seneca. So Eileen's asking for a specific course that we don't cover at the moment, and the answer is basically any requests that come through here, I will make sure I pass it on to the content team. We plan to cover every single course that is offered to students in the UK at some point in the future. So that will, so that will come in time. But we obviously takes a lot of time and resource to make these courses. So we need to, prioritize basically what we produce to make sure it's impacting as many students as possible. But we are constantly adding courses. Just this week, we've added 3 more English Literature A-level courses. And yeah, it's an ongoing process we go through. So I will pass on any requests that there are onto the team who works with that. Okay, a question from DJ Sheep. Sorry, apologies if I haven't said your name correctly. When students try to complete an assignment that is overdue, they click on a shared link via Classroom for an assignment. However, they then need to click on the drop-down past assignment. I'm not sure if that's a question or a statement, but the answer to that is so when an assignment has passed, it will go into their past assignments. It's not a drop down or anything like that on students. It's just upcoming assignments and past assignments, and they just need to click on past assignments to access any assignments that have passed already. Okay. Okay. Another question is there any way to import the marks from an assignment into Google Classroom? Presently, I make a note that the average, so the average percentage that Seneca shows, and then you edit the section marks for the individual section. So as I mentioned earlier, what you can do is you can download the spreadsheet as CSV and upload it to your markbook in Classroom. Currently, we don't have an option where it just transfers automatically, unfortunately, but that's something we would definitely like to do in the future. Question, hi, I tried to add some of the geography courses, but they seemed locked. How can I access this content? So the only reason they might have been locked is that maybe they were premium courses that you're adding, but what you just need to do is try and add the courses again. If you could give me more information about how you think they were locked. Sometimes they're not locked, but some teachers think they are. So yeah, you can just use those, any courses that you can use, that's fine to use, obviously, if you can access them. There shouldn't be any locked courses apart from premium courses. Okay, question from Katie. How do you import grades into Google Classroom? I've already shared that, so you can download a CSV, and then I will upload, and then you can upload them. A question from Moto G8 Power Light. I assume that's the name of your phone. So if a student clicks on the link to join the class through Teams, do they have to create an account? Do they create an account automatically? So no, unfortunately not at the moment. We are working on adding single sign-on for students so that they can access this. So they can access single sign-on, so then they would be able to use their Microsoft or their Google logins to access Seneca. But at the moment, the students will need to create an account if they haven't done so already. But as soon as they've done that and they've logged in on their device, it will just remember their login details, and that will make it seamless. Question from Stefan is, are there any plans to extend courses for the Mexican system? I assume, Stefan, you're talking about the Mexican curriculum courses we have. So yes, we're constantly adding courses to for all our different country curricula we offer. Question from, yeah, so there's lots of questions on different courses we offer. Yeah, I will pass on those queries to people. One from Rebecca about AQA GCSE psychology. I believe we already offer that, Rebecca, so just double check and have a look at that. A question from Darren is, do you have to set up an assignment after all students have joined the class? So no, Darren, you can go ahead and do that straight away. So that's why, if you think about the steps we talked you through when you first set up a class, the setting assignment is step 3, and then step 4, you invite your students. So what will happen is, as a student joins the class, it will just automatically add that assignment to them. So there's no need to worry about waiting for students to sign up before setting assignments. Question from Archibald is, will the live stream be available to review later on? The shared screen did not work for me. I managed to click on the YouTube link halfway through. So yes, I kind of answered your own question there, but this stream is available on YouTube. So straight after this session, and even now, you'll be able to go and watch this live stream, and you'll be able to access this webinar, this exact webinar, and revisit the content if you missed any of that. Okay, question from Stefan about our CPD courses. He says, the CPD courses are excellent. Are there any plans to extend these beyond what already exist, and where can we find out about these? So the answer to Stefan is yes. We are, again, constantly adding new CPD courses. We're currently, I think we've signed a deal with an author just last week to add another one. So yes, it's an ongoing process. Just keep an eye out for them. Question from Nikki is, do you link with Show My Homework? So you saw that there were 4 options to share the link. There's first of all the email. You can email students links. You can share it on Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams, and there's also an option just to copy the link. Now, if you just copy the link, and then what that will then allow you to do is pop it on to Show My Homework. So then you can start using it on Show My Homework if you want. But there's no formal button for Show My Homework. But that obviously doesn't mean you can't use it there. Okay, great. I think that looks like the end of the questions. So thank you very much for joining, everyone. If you have any further questions, the best thing to do is get in contact with our customer support team. So if you just go on your account and log in, you'll be able to see a little box down the bottom, a little chat box, and that will give you access to have a chat with Olivia, who will be able to help you. And if you have any questions, please do go in through there. But otherwise, keep an eye out for the email that's coming to you straight up or soon after this webinar, and that will give you some useful links of things to get you started and get going with it. So thanks very much, and I hope you have a great day.